not getting any success in the short time span. For example, you're not getting good results in the mock test, in the revision test, etc., etc. But this success will not come overnight. You will have to spend so many such nights. You have to struggle hell lot to get that success. But if you quit in between, this is for sure you're not gonna get it as such. The success will not come to you if you are quitting it. So simply, it won't happen overnight. But if you quit, it won't happen at all. So don't quit, don't give up, just continue doing your efforts, and one day the day will be yours. Okay, so with this motivation, let's start with our daily news analysis. Before that, a notification for the admissions. The admissions are open at Narayana IS Academy, wherein if you're preparing for 2026 UPSC CSE or 2027, you can join our 1 year or 2 year program, which includes integrated course for prelims as well as mains. The course is designed in such a manner that you will be having more than 1,000 hours of lectures for general studies as well as CSAT. And for current affairs specifically, you will be having more than 200 hours of lectures. So it's a comprehensive course, and the course is designed in such a manner that the entire syllabus of UPSC is covered in detail. So we have prepared a micro schedule. So each topic of UPSC syllabus has been described in the micro level or at the micro level in such a way that you cover almost every dimension. We have some expert faculties who will be taking care of all these lectures, and you will be tested almost weekly. You will give so many tests that almost 4,000 prelims questions will be practiced, almost 1,000 mains practice questions will be given to you. So you will be evaluated, regular testing will happen, regular feedbacks will be given. So you can go for these courses. Also, the resources that will be provided to you. You will get the NCRT Navigator books, you will get GS Navigator books, you will get current affairs magazines specifically made considering the importance in the examination, and you will get access to multiple digital resources at Narayana IS Academy. Okay, so you can think about this. Let's move forward with our news analysis. Now we have these four major news for today. The first article is related to space program of India. See, historically, India has focused substantially on the space program, and we are very much successful in this. So we'll understand the entire history, what we have done till now, what are our achievements, what we are planning in future. So all this part will be covered here. Second, this article is related to code of conduct of judges. So recently, a High Court judge was in news or was in controversy for making some derogatory statements or statements which go against the code of conduct or ethics of a judicial officer or judiciary. So we'll understand that. The third article is related to solar energy. Right now we are focusing a lot on renewable energy sources, and solar energy is a key part of it. So we'll study that part over here. And fourth article is related to internet shutdown. See, government bans internet, shuts down the internet. And this phenomena is taking place in India so many times that nowadays we call India as the capital of internet shutdown in the entire world. So this is not a good news as such for India, right? So we'll understand all of this in detail. So let's start with our first article. First article related to India's space mission, space program. So here for prelims as well as mains, this topic becomes highly important. You can be asked a question in the mains which broadly wants to know about India's space program, what are India's achievements in this space program. And the topic given in GS paper 3, achievements of Indians in science and technology, it directly relates with this topic, right? Now you can read this previous year question of year 2019. What is India's plan to have its own space station, and how will it benefit our space program? So you need to know our space program, and you need to know about our space station program also. Now, what is the context? The writer over here is arguing that India's space program is developing. It's going in the right direction. And right now, we have some ambitious goals for the next 10 years to come, for the next decade. For example, we are planning to bring in this next generation launch vehicle. We are planning to develop our own space station. See, hardly we see any country having their own space station. So we have a very ambitious target in mind. So that's why we want to know how our space program actually started, what all things have happened till now. We say that this space program started at the time of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So in the time of 1960s, we see the foundation led in that time. So initially we started with this particular committee, Indian National Committee for Space Research. In short, we call it INCOSPAR. It's a committee which was constituted, and it was constituted on the recommendation of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Now, he's a very famous personality. We call Dr. Vikram Sarabhai as the father of India's space program. So he recommended to form this committee, and the task this committee had was to start or initiate the space program in India. To start with any program, let's say they were making some initial satellites, they were making some experiments, all that was part of it. So what was the achievement of this particular committee? Firstly, they launched some sounding rockets. Now, what is sounding rocket? Well, just like any other rocket, this is one rocket, but this rocket is made only for the experimental purpose. Let's say scientists want to experiment something. They just want to check how long a satellite can go, what can happen in this particular mission. So for that, the rocket they make, experimental one, for scientific purpose, that is called sounding rocket. So initially in the year 1963, sounding rockets were launched by this committee. Then India's first satellite Aryabhat was launched. That was also done with the help of this particular committee, INCOSPAR. Okay, but it's a committee, it is not an institute as such. So in the year 1969, this committee was transformed into an institute, and this institute is our ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. See, forming an institute is very important because committees will keep on meeting with some frequencies or periodically. Means, let's say they meet today, they might meet after 6 months, 4 months, whatever. But when you have an institute, that means you have dedicated that institute for that task only. You will give them some funding, they'll recruit some people, and they will continuously work on that, and they will come up with new innovations. So ISRO is whatever we did or what institutionalization we did. This is a major step we can say. Then in the year 1972, we have made our institutional structure more better or more sophisticated. So first of all, we constituted this Space Commission. Now this is an important body because this is the body which takes the final decision on what to do with respect to space. So we call it highest decision making body. See, usually whenever you're making policies, whenever you're taking up any decision, there are two levels. One is at the top where policy decisions are made, the major decisions are taken up, the vision is set. Second is the implementation part at the ground level. So that implementation is done by other organization or other body, that is Department of Space. So we have this decision making body which is Space Commission, and the Space Commission directly reports to Prime Minister of India. So you can understand how much important this body is. Okay. After that, Department of Space has to ensure that whatever decision is taken by Space Commission, they are going to implement it. So that implementation will happen. Now, one important fact that this Department of Space is led by Secretary of Department of Space, and that secretary is usually ISRO's chairman. Whoever is the chairman of ISRO is usually appointed as the secretary of this Department of Space. So this dual role ensures that whatever Space Commission has decided, this person is in a position to actually implement it, because overall ISRO has to do the major tasks. Clear? Now see the most important developments of India's space program. It's not like India has just spent few satellites as such, but I have taken up a list which we consider as most important or key developments. For example, we start with 1963 when we actually have gone for our first launch of these sounding rockets from this Thumba rocket launch, right? But this is something very minute thing. That was our initial step. Later on, we develop launch vehicle. What is launch vehicle? You can call it a rocket. So you must have seen how satellites are launched. There is a rocket just like this. There will be different stages in it, and this rocket will move ahead to put a satellite in the orbit. Now we call this part as the launch vehicle, which is going to launch. So that's why it's a vehicle which is going to launch a particular satellite. So we first developed this satellite launch vehicle SLV-3 in the year 1980. Later on, we developed a better version in the form of Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle in the year 1993. Now, this is very important. This Satellite Launch Vehicle, that is PSLV in short, this is one of the most important launch vehicle India has ever developed. So, whatever number of satellites India has sent in the space till now, maximum of them have been sent using this PSLV. We call it workhorse of ISRO. Okay, very important. Then for larger payloads or to go for a very long distance, we decided we will build another launch vehicle, that is GSLV, that we developed in the year 2001. We call it Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle. Right now we have this one also, this one also. And then we started our missions. For example, we started this Chandrayaan mission. So we have Chandrayaan 1 in 2008, then 2019 Chandrayaan 2, 2023 Chandrayaan 3. We have gone for Mars mission also in 2013. So all these missions are showing that India is going in the right direction when it comes to space program. We are a leading player in the space program. Okay. Now we have some planned missions also. We talked about our ambitions. We have an ambition of Gaganyaan mission. Gaganyaan mission says that we are going to send some of our astronauts, some of our Indian astronauts to space using our own rockets. So this is the Gaganyaan mission we have planned. Then our space station in the space. Space station is just like we have for buses, we have bus station, for railways, we have railway station, for aeroplanes, we have airport. Similarly, for these satellites or for any vehicle going in the space, they can stop at a particular location, and that is space station. Even scientists can stay there. They can do their experiments over there. So we are thinking of building one space station of our own. Right now we have one international space station, but this is not owned by any country. We are planning to build our own, which is owned by India. Very interesting plan. Then we have so many plans which are about going towards any other planet. So whether it is Mars or any planet beyond the asteroid belt, this is also under plan. And fourth major thing is to build this next generation launch vehicle. So we already have PSLV, GSLV. Now we are planning a new launch vehicle called next generation launch vehicle. And this is very important. That's why we are discussing it in detail. Now we are planning that we should have a launch vehicle which can send a very large package, a very heavy package. Right now, whenever the weight of our satellite or our in any package we want to send to space, let's say we have built a satellite and that satellite is somewhere around, let's say 3000 kg, and we want to send it in the space, let's say in the geosynchronous orbit. So we can send that. But if we want to send larger, let's say 5000 kg, right now we don't have the capacity to send it for such a large package. What do? We go to some other countries. For example, we go to SpaceX. So SpaceX has a launch vehicle called Falcon 9, which can send up to 8300 kg to this geosynchronous transfer orbit. Okay. Now, when we are comparing ourselves with other countries or other space agencies who are having such a good capacity, we want that we should also have this capacity to launch satellites which are very heavy. So this next generation launch vehicle, it is having very heavy lift capacity. So right now, the best of our launch vehicle is LVM3. Okay, that is GSLV-3. Its highest capacity, whatever it is, we are thinking of building a launch vehicle which has 3 times the capacity of LVM-3. So somewhere around the plan is 8,000 or more than 8,000 kg of a package can be sent to this geosynchronous transfer orbit. So we are competing with SpaceX to some extent, we can say. We are becoming a global player and we want to establish our competitiveness in global arena. This is first thing. The second thing related to this launch vehicle is that it is going to be reusable. Right now what happens with PSLV or GSLV, whenever you are sending a rocket, let's say this is the rocket, okay, usually what happens, the rocket has started its journey from the earth's surface. First of all, this stage 1, once the fuel of this area is completely exhausted, this part of the rocket will fall, then the second, then the third, this happens. But we can't use the same rocket for multiple missions. For example, we have sent one satellite right now using this launch vehicle. Second time, if we want to send some other satellite, we can't use the same rocket. It is completely destroyed. So we are planning, if we have a rocket which can be launched multiple times, which can be used multiple times, then we can actually save a lot of cost, because every time we have to build this launch vehicle. We don't need to do that if it is reusable. So right now the plan is, with this next generation launch vehicle, it will have the ability to be reused. Okay, so that's why we are calling it a next generation launch vehicle. Clear? Now, if we build this is going to be a tough task. If we build this will make India relatively more independent country in terms of our space programs. See, most of the world's countries are dependent on some other countries for launching their satellites. We are we are doing good in terms of small payloads, but when it comes to a large satellite, we are also dependent on other countries. But if we are in a position to build this launch vehicle, payload capacity is higher, it can be reused also, then we are not dependent on others. So we'll have a space autonomy for a very long term. So that's why we are calling this is a very good program. Then look at our policy. In 2023, government came up with India's space policy. The policy clearly mentions few important things, one of which is private sector's participation. Right now, ISRO is doing all the work and ISRO is under government. There's no private sector involved. So government is saying we need the role of private sector in the space sector. From building the satellite to launch vehicles, sending the satellite to space, everything should be done by private sector also. That will make things competitive. You look at USA, they have NASA as well as they have some other companies such as the SpaceX of Elon Musk. That's a private company. So we want this to happen in India. This will ensure that the space sector will grow and it will boost our economy too. Okay. Then the policy says that what should ISRO do? ISRO should focus more on the research and development. So with research, new technologies will come up, new innovations will take up, and ISRO will compete with world in terms of technology. And what ISRO should do additionally is that whatever data they are getting from their satellites, they should give this data free of cost to all the Indians. So if there is any private company, they want to go ahead with any startup, they can utilize this data. So it should be free and open. Then third thing, there is one organization to be established, that is in space, which is already established. The task of this in space would be to regulate the private sector. Whatever private sector is doing, they should be overlooked, or they should be rather regulated. So not overlooked, they should be overseen by this in space organization. So they have to ensure that whatever private sector is doing, their action should align with what our national interests are. It should not go against our national interest. And then as far as the role of private sector is concerned, we need that ISRO should go ahead with some deals which are commercial deals with private sectors. And for that deal, one other organization is formed, that is NSIL. So this NSIL is considered to be a commercial arm of ISRO. So they will go ahead with some deals with private sectors, let's say to build a satellite or to send a satellite, anything. The deal can be anything. So all these are recommendations given by this policy or the vision set by the policy on which government is moving ahead. So this is the overall or broad picture of India's space program and India's space policy. I hope you understand right now. Okay. Now, before we start with the second topic, just a short break of 10-15 seconds. Okay, let's start with our second article. This is related to code of conduct of judges. Now we said that recently a very controversial thing happened wherein a judge from Allahabad High Court, he made some comments. So there was an event organized by Vishwa Hindu Parishad's legal cell. In that event, he was giving a speech, and in that speech, he made some statements which go completely against the ethics of judiciary. He made comments against a particular community. So the statements seem very much discriminatory, very much biased towards one community and against another community. And a person who is in his judicial capacity, if he is showing biases, then can he do his job of justice? That is the question, and that's why we are discussing this article. So this article is important for your GS paper 2, GS paper 4 also, for ethics paper also. So in GS 2, as part of governance, the role of judiciary is important. So judiciary should show some restraint also. Individuals should show some restraint while acting in their capacity. Also in GS paper 4, ethics in public administration, there is one term called accountability, one term called ethical governance. And this is a good example to give in the paper. Okay. Now look at this question of 2024, recent mains paper. So GS paper for question, the code of conduct and code of ethics are the sources of guidance in public administration. There is code of conduct already in operation, whereas code of ethics is not yet put in place. Suggest a suitable model for code of ethics to maintain integrity, probity and transparency in governance. So a very broad question has been asked on code of conduct as well as code of ethics. So anyway, you will understand these terms when you study GS4 ethics paper. When you study that governance part, you will understand these terms. But you should have the broader understanding and you should quote such examples which are in the news in the answers. That will give an edge and that will fetch you additional marks. Okay. Now, we said that one event was organized in which this Allahabad High Court judge, the name of the judge is Justice Shekhar Kumar Yadav, he made some comments which are very divisive, communally charged, which are against a particular community. And that's why we are questioning judicial conduct and ethics. Now, whenever we use a word called judicial conduct, conduct means whatever a person is doing, what are his actions, his behavior, we are looking at these things. So, in his conduct, what we usually think is that if you are a judge, that means you should do whatever is written in the constitution or the law books. That is true. Whatever is written, that should be done. But it's not just about what has been written, but it's about the values behind that particular writings. So it's not always possible that in the constitution or law books, those minute values or the core essential values are actually directly written. But those values should be given more importance while showing your conduct. So for example, if you are a judge, you're not supposed to be biased towards one party, because if two parties have come to you for justice and if the judge is already biased towards one community, one party, then definitely the judgment will be in such a way that it will support one side and it will be not having any advantage for the other side, or rather discriminatory to the other side, and we don't call it justice. That is not really a natural justice. So that's why when we are talking about this judiciary, then ethics in judiciary is must. Without that, the role of judiciary cannot be completed in essential form. Now, when we are discussing judicial conduct, how the judiciary should behave, how the judicial officer should behave, we have some guidelines. Now, one guideline is from this document called Restatement of Values of Judicial Life. Now, it's a document. This document was adopted by Supreme Court in the year 1997. It's a very old document, but a very important document, we can say. Then we have one more other document or principles. But first, let's discuss this part. This document clearly mentions that every judicial officer or every judge should ensure that these principles are followed completely. For example, one of the principles is impartiality and independence. Impartiality means your decision making will not be partial. For example, let's say I have some personal beliefs related to my own religion, and if there are two parties, one of the party belongs to that religion. So I will not allow my personal belief to come in. Whenever I'm giving any judgment, I'll be very objective. I'll just look at the facts. I'll not look at my personal beliefs. I'll keep them aside. This is what we call as impartiality. Will not become partial towards one party or the other. Right? Second is independence. When you are making any decision, you should make it completely independently. No, just because someone is supporting you. Let's say prime minister or chief minister or any political party is giving support to you or putting pressure on you. That should not be the reason for your judgment. You should take the judgment or give the judgment completely independently without any fear. So these principles are very important for judges. Clear? Second is integrity and accountability. Integrity means you take the decision in such a way that even if someone is watching you or even if someone is not watching you, your decision should not change. So simply integrity is where whatever you think actually comes in action. Whatever you think, you speak the same and you act in the same manner. So even if nobody is watching, you will not do anything wrong. So this is integrity and that should be there. That should be followed. Second is accountability. Accountability. Any decision taken by any judge, whether it is High Court judge or Supreme Court judge or any lower court judge, they should be accountable for that. If they have taken any wrong decisions, they should be made accountable for that. So they should be reviewed, and that is must for the entire system. People will not trust you if you do not have any accountability as such, right? Then upholding constitutional values. We have talked about values, that there are some values which are inherent. The constitution as a book is very lengthy, but if I look at the core values behind this constitution or the core philosophy of constitution, I understand that constitution wants that there should be democracy in India, that there should be rule of law in India, that there should be justice in India, equality in India, right? So these constitutional values have to be protected at any cost. When a judge makes some comments against a particular community, he's anyway going against the principle of equality, going against the principle of justice. So these values are very important and those should be upheld by every judge. Then fourth is decorum and public confidence. So when we say decorum, you have to maintain the decorum of the court. That means you should not do any such action which goes completely against the dignity of the entire court. Means your action, because of one judge's wrong action, entire judiciary will be questioned. The dignity of the judiciary or the court will be questioned, and people will lack faith in the judiciary. They will not have trust or confidence in the judiciary because of this. So it is the responsibility of every judge to maintain that decorum. Now all these are mentioned in this Restatement of Values of Judicial Life document. Apart from that, we have some principles which are called Bangalore Principles of Judicial Conduct. Now these are very famous. Let me tell you, these are very famous at the international level. So world community looks at these principles, and this one also includes some principles. So we already covered this: independence, impartiality, integrity. right? These are also mentioned over here. Apart from the earlier ones, we have over here propriety. Propriety means it is very similar to being very accountable to whatever you're doing. So first of all, do the right thing in the right manner. The way you are doing it, that also matters. Then do it at the right time. Don't delay your action, don't prepone your action, and do it in the manner which is right manner. You can say right way or right manner is more or less similar. So propriety will involve that you are taking action in such a way that you take the complete responsibility for it. You are very careful about your action, and that's why the such actions are considered to be right actions. Then the principle of equality is also mentioned in this Bangalore principles. Why equality? Well, whoever is going to judiciary should look at them in equal manner. One should not be given more importance, other one should not be given less importance. So no one should be discriminated on any of the basis. So this is the principle of equality. And at last, competence and diligence. Now what is competence? Competence means simply whatever expertise or knowledge you have, you should make use of it. So let's say I'm a teacher, I have the competence related to my subject. I should just make use of that knowledge and do my stuff. So just in the similar way, the judges, they have to make use of their knowledge, their expertise of law, constitutional values, etc. And they should go ahead with that. They should make use of that competence. And diligence means being very careful while doing your actions. You do your work, you do it, you're doing the hard work, you're doing it persistently, but you are very careful also. You are looking at what your action will have an impact on the people. It's not like just because in the booklet it is written that you have to do this action. You are taking action, but you are also considering the impact it will have on people. So such careful actions will be taken ahead with diligence. So this Bangalore Principles of Judicial Conduct is providing these principles. See, whenever you're writing answers, we expect, especially in the ethics paper, that you come up with such values, such principles. You should mention these in the answers directly. Okay. Now, in case there is a judge who does not adhere to such values, who goes completely against the constitutional values, who does something wrong, what will happen? Well, the last action that can be taken is the impeachment of judges. Well, usually we don't use this term impeachment for judges. We say removal of judges. Impeachment is the word which is formally used for president. If you want to remove the president, we go for impeachment. For judges, we have the removal procedure given in Article 124, Clause 4 and 217, Clause 1, Clause B. See, this is for Supreme Court judges, this is for High Court judges. These articles clearly said that if there is a judge who is guilty of proved misbehavior or incapacity, means the person is not having the capacity to lead like a judge, or his misbehavior is very much clear, very much crystal clear, it is highly proved. In that case, you can go ahead with these provisions and remove a judge. Now, this is mentioned in the Constitution. Then we have a law called Judges Inquiry Act 1968. This law clearly defines what all will be the grounds in which we can go ahead with such proceedings against a judge. Okay, so you should know that there is a law, there are these constitutional provisions. Now, how a judge is exactly removed? First, what we do is we initiate the motion or we bring a notice in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Please understand, the proceeding will start in Parliament, wherein Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. If you are in Lok Sabha, then at least 100 members should sign a notice and give it to the Speaker. Or if you are starting it in the Rajya Sabha, then at least 50 members should sign it and give it to the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Then it is in the hand of this Speaker or Chairman to decide whether to take it or reject it. If they reject, nothing will happen. But if they take it, now further action can be taken. What will happen? They'll first check what this person has done, what that judge has done. So inquiry has to be done. So first we'll form inquiry committee, which will include total 3 members. Now, one of the member would be a Supreme Court judge. Another member would be a chief justice of a high court. And third member would be a distinguished jurist. Such a three-member committee will go ahead and complete their investigation in this case. Once they are done with their investigation, they will come and give this report to the speaker or chairman. Okay. Now, when the report is there, when the report seems to be made in such a way that all these allegations which were made against that judge are proved, though they are substantiated, in that case speaker will put this report in front of the parliament. That means in front of all the members of parliament, and now voting will take place. Now how voting takes place? Where here you need a very good majority of total membership. Let's say we have Lok Sabha, total members of Lok Sabha, that number, for that number you need majority. That means 50% of that, 50%, more than 50% votes are required. And second, whatever number of people are present today, that is present and voting, out of that 2/3 should vote for this particular resolution or that particular parliamentary approval. Now if this voting takes place, then this final resolution or notice is sent to President of India, and finally President will come up with an order and remove that particular judge. So who is removing finally? It is the President. Okay, the process is taking place in the Parliament, right? These are the facts you should certainly know. Now it's not like the recent case which you are seeing is the first time we are seeing any kind of controversy from judges side. Earlier also we saw many controversies. For example, such impeachment or mechanism of removal of judges had been started against many judges. For example, 1993 against Justice V. Ramaswamy, in the year 2011 against Justice Soumitra Sen, in 2015 against Justice J.B. Pardiwala, in the year 2017 against Justice C.V. Nagarjuna Reddy. But these investigations or cases or the notice was initiated in the Parliament, but we have not seen any judge ever removed from the judicial post till now in India. That means the impeachment never got completed. That process never got completed. No judge has been impeached or removed till now in India. That's an important fact you should know. Clear? So that was our second article, and a very important article, I would say. Okay. Now let's move on to the third article. This article is related to solar energy, and nowadays we are talking about renewable energy, so you can understand its importance. It's important for your GS paper 3 prelims. In prelims it can be asked, in mains also it can be asked. So solar energy as well as this International Solar Alliance, this is very important. Look at this previous year question. You can read the question. I just want to show you that there was a question on International Solar Alliance. So just to show you that such questions can be expected. Factual question can be expected. Now, why it is in news? Well, recently, International Solar Alliance came up with a report. The name of that report is World Solar Report 2024. In that report, they have given substantial data on what's exactly happening in terms of solar energy. So, first of all, let's understand what this alliance is. It's an alliance, International Solar Alliance. So, what happened in the year 2015? The Prime Minister of India and President of France, they met at this UNFCCC COP21 in Paris, and over there they decided that we will launch a solar alliance, International Solar Alliance. So they launched it. Plan was that let's motivate the entire world to go ahead with solar energy sources, to build solar energy plants. So the plan was at least deploy 1000 gigawatt of solar energy capacity throughout the world by the year 2030. Also, they needed some money, some funding, some investment. So to mobilize that funding, somewhere up to 1 trillion US dollars of funding till 2030. So for that, some kind of alliance is required so that people will come up with that. Some innovative financial mechanisms are required which need to be developed. And that's why this alliance was developed, and it was expected that many countries will become part of this alliance. So what they did, they said that any member of United Nations can become part of International Solar Alliance. So right now if you see, there are almost 120 members who are already part of this International Solar Alliance. And interestingly, the headquarter of this ISA is in India. It's in Gurugram, India. So very interesting, because we usually do not have any headquarter of any international organization in India. This is the first one, we can say. Now, what this report was brought by ISA, and this report is giving us some important trends. First of all, if you look at the global market of solar energy, well, China is dominating this market completely. So whatever solar energy is generated in the world, 43% of it is generated in China. After that comes other members. So 10% is done by USA, then Japan, Germany, India. Each one has contribution of 5% of solar energy. So you can understand what's the difference. China is way ahead. Then the report also talked about some new solar technologies or advancements in the solar technologies that are taking place. So for example, they talked about quantum dot solar cell. So you must have seen the solar cells wherein we are generating electricity using this light coming up. So in terms of these solar cells, they have very small quantum dots which can convert this sunlight into electricity, and they are considered to be very efficient. So these are now developed. Then we have a new thing called self-healing solar panels. If there is a solar panel and let's say it has got damaged, now we have a technology through which it can repair itself on its own. So if you put it in the sunlight, it will repair itself. We don't need to go and repair it. So this is called self-healing solar panel. Then apart from that, we have solar powered phyto mining. For mining purpose, you are making use of solar energy. And we are also thinking about recycling these solar panels. So these are the advanced technologies which are developing in this particular field. Now focus just on India. What's happening in India? So we are saying that we are focusing on renewable energy sources. We don't want to be dependent on fossil fuel, petrol, diesel as such. We want to go for renewable sources where we will get electricity continuously. And sun is a good source. That energy is continuously coming to us. So very good source. So out of all the renewable energy sources, India is focusing more on the solar power. You can say we have wind energy, we have hydropower, biopower, then small hydropower, and we have solar power. And you see 45% of our renewable energy capacity or our electricity is being generated from solar power. This clearly shows that even Indian government is serious about this. Okay, and you can see, you can look at many government initiatives, many government programs wherein government is actually promoting it. For example, this PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, PM Kusum Yojana, then building of solar parks by government for the generation of electricity, for streamlining electricity. So all these things are showing that solar energy is being focused a lot. Clear? Now the last article of the day. Again, a 10-second, 15-second break. Let me check if there is any comment. Good evening. India is nailing the space race in recent years. Yes, India is certainly nailing, and we are way ahead of many other countries in terms of this space sector at least. Okay, so we're done with three topics. The last one. Last one is related to internet shutdowns in India. Shutdown means government is completely stopping the internet. Whatever internet you use using your mobile phone. Government is saying for few days, for next 15 days, there will not be any internet in your area. That is called internet shutdown. So this topic is important for you, especially for mains. For in GS paper 2, you can be asked any question in which you can directly utilize the content from this particular article. So for example, we have this question. Discuss section 66A of IT Act with reference to its alleged violation of Article 19 of the Constitution. So when you're writing answers for such questions, you can utilize the data of internet shutdowns, or you can utilize the provisions the legal provisions we have regarding these internet shutdowns in the answer. So somewhere you're getting the content. Now, why it is in news? What's the context? The context is India is at the number one, and for a very wrong reason. That is internet shutdown. Our government shuts down internet so many times. So you see, out of all the internet shutdowns throughout the world, 70% takes place in India. Interestingly, this is not happening even in some countries which whom we call totalitarian, authoritarian. We are a democracy, and interestingly, in democracies this is happening. So it's not a good news. If you look at the data at micro level, in the year 2020 itself, 129 internet shutdowns took place. And whenever you're stopping internet completely or shutting it down, this will have economic impact. See, there are many people whose economy is running only on internet, who are working on internet only. You can understand that. For example, if you go to the IT hubs, they are working because there is internet. If you remove the internet part, then it will be very difficult for them to work. So it is said that in this year 2020 itself, Indian economy saw the loss of $2.8 billion just because of this shutdown, internet shutdown. So economically, it is very dangerous for us. Then more interestingly, if you go for shutdown in India, in any place of India, let's say you do it in Jammu Kashmir or Nagaland, anywhere, one important thing is it will affect every citizen of India in that particular area, obviously. Why? Because we people use internet using our mobile phones. 97% of Indian users are utilizing or using internet of this mobile connection only. So that means in any area, 97% will be directly affected because of this internet shutdown. And apart from that, when India is going ahead with such is the high frequency of shutdowns, then it is not good for the reputation of India, the image of India. The global image we have is we are a democracy, the largest democracy. But this goes completely against the principles of democracy. So it is not good. Now look at the provisions we have for these internet shutdowns. So historically, we have been using one provision called Section 144 of Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. So the district administration, let's say we have district magistrate or district collector, they will be having some authority under this provision, wherein if there is an emergency case, they want to establish law and order, there's an emergency case and they want to solve that issue. For that, they want to control the information, they want to stop the internet for some time. Let's say some communal violence took place, you can see the conditions in Manipur right now. If such situation is taking place, chaotic situation is there, then district administration can make use of this section 144. Now, this section 144 is not specifically made for internet shutdown. It is a very broad clause. It is having authority, it provides authority to the district administration to control the scenario, to maintain law and order. For that, they have lots of powers. So, this provision is utilized for this internet shutdown by the authorities. But interestingly, we have some specific rules which specifically talk about internet shutdown or give power to the government. So we have this Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. Under this act, some rules are brought in the year 2017. We call them Temporary Suspension of Telecom Services, Public Emergency or Public Safety Rules 2017. These rules specifically mention this thing, that if government thinks that they have to go for internet shutdown, they can go for it for maximum 15 days in one go. In one go, they can do it for maximum 15 days. And this order can be given only by Union Home Secretary or State Home Secretary. You can understand there will be Home Ministry, Ministry of Home at union level as well as state level. The secretary of that ministry only can sign this particular order, right? So very important fact we can see. Now there is a case which is very important with respect to internet shutdowns, and that is Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India 2020. Now this case specifically talks about fundamental rights of our citizens. See, whenever we talk about fundamental rights, specifically Article 19. Article 19, Clause 1, Clause A, it says that we have freedom of speech and expression. Then Article 19, Clause 1, Clause G says we have freedom to practice any profession. Just think about it. If you do not have access to internet, do you have access to information? I want to express something. I want to express my views, but I don't have access to internet. I want to express it on the internet. I want to express it on the, let's say, Twitter or Facebook or anything. I can't do it just because I don't have internet. That means this right is completely violated because government has shut down the internet. Then I want to practice my profession, but I can do my work only online. And if there is no internet, how can I practice my profession? And these two are my fundamental rights. These are very core rights that I have under the Constitution. So this was accepted by the Supreme Court, that access to information via internet is part of Article 19, Clause 1, Clause A and Clause G. But court also said that sometimes restrictions have to be established to maintain law and order. But there should be some criteria for these restrictions. For example, if you have gone for some internet shutdown, you can't do it for a very long period. It's not like you have put it today and for next 2-3 months there is internet shutdown. This is not right. First of all, it should be very temporary, for a very short duration, just to handle the emergency situation. Secondly, it should be proportionate. So if the situation requires, then you go for 7 days, 8 days, 10 days, but you don't go for 1 year internet shutdown, right? So it should be proportionate. And third, you should review. You should have transparent and accountable mechanism. You should review whatever is happening. If you have done the shutdown, it should be reviewed after a few days whether it is actually required or not. So all these things are mentioned by Supreme Court in this case. You should know this case. You should remember Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India. Clear? So these are the 4 articles we are done with. Let's discuss some practice questions. So first is a mains practice question. Discuss the key milestones in India's space program. They are asking key milestones and analyze the future goals. So they are asking future goals also, including the development of next generation launch vehicle and establishment of space station. So these are the core dimensions, and you have to specifically talk about NGLV and space station. We saw the previous year question in which they had already asked about space station. So such a question can be asked. How you will write? Will give a brief introduction specifically about India's space program, that it is developing in a really good manner. You can talk about the historical angle too. And in the body part, show these key milestones we have achieved. So you can show it in this manner, wherein we started from 1960s and till now we have such good achievements. You can even add other missions too. Then you can talk about the institutional development, how we build the ISRO, then Space Commission, Department of Space. You can mention that. Then come to this future goal angle. So you can mention some future plans we have, Gaganyaan mission and all, and then specifically talk about these two, NGLV and space station. You should briefly mention them and its importance also for India to bring in this strategic autonomy. And at the end, give some optimism with respect to space program and talk about its global impact and our vision to serve our national interest as well as global interest. This is how you answer this. Okay. The next question. Discuss the ethical standards expected from judges in India, highlighting the importance of impartiality, integrity, and accountability in judicial conduct. How do frameworks like this restatement of values of judicial life and Bangalore principles of judicial conduct contribute to maintaining judicial independence? Now, a very broad question and very specific also. So first of all, talk about these ethical standards expected from judges. So you can start with any court also, or you can start with judicial ethics or importance of ethics in judiciary. This you can mention in the introduction itself. Then in the body part, be very specific. They asked about impartiality, integrity, accountability. Mention that. Give an example also so that person can understand. Mention some constitutional values also. For example, democracy, rule of law, justice, etc. And then specifically talk about these frameworks, the recommendations or the principles given under these frameworks. So you mention those over here specifically. And at the end, You talk about this thing that judicial independence is very much important for the survival of any democracy, for the welfare of the common man or every citizen of the world. Okay, so this is how you can answer it, right? Then we have some prelims practice questions. Now these are the questions from yesterday's articles. So with reference to the constitutional provisions for reservation in India, consider the following statements. Article 15.4 enables special provisions for the advancement of socially and educationally backward classes. This is absolutely correct. This is mentioned in the constitution. Article 16.4a allows reservation in promotions for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. This is also absolutely true. Third, the 103rd Constitutional Amendment provides reservation in political representation for economically weaker section, that is EWS. Now, this statement is wrong. This is not a political representation. They are not getting a reservation in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha or State Assembly. They are getting it in the education sector. They are getting it in the employment or jobs. So, not political representation. So, it is wrong. So, 1 and 2 is the right answer. Then INS Tushil, commissioned into the Indian Navy on 9 December 2024, is a Talwar class ship. What type of warship is INS Tushil? Very easy question, even if you have just watched the lecture. Answer is, it's a frigate. It's not aircraft carrier, not destroyer, not corvette. It's a frigate. Now, just a homework for you. These are the practice questions for today's articles, and I expect all of you to answer them from the link you will get in the description or the comment box. In the comment box, you will get the link wherein you will directly reach out to the website. You can attempt these questions. First question, arrange the following in descending order of their share in India's total energy mix in terms of installed capacity, right? So you can provide that answer. First, anyway, you know the answer. We have discussed it. Then the following observations were made by the Supreme Court of India in a landmark judgment. So these are mentioned. Access to internet is a fundamental right under Article 19(1)(a). Then restrictions on internet access must be lawful, necessary, proportionate and temporary. Orders imposing internet restrictions must be subject to judicial review and public discourse. Now, all of this has been said in which particular case? So the examples are given here, and you know the answer anywhere. It is a very easy question, I can say. Okay, so please attempt it, and I can say we are done with our daily news analysis with all these 4 most important articles of the day. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you so much.